You're back. How are we? How you doing? You well?
Going well, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. We've got some beautiful weather. We're just saying it and sharing it with Joel, who is obviously in Queensland at the moment, and we're just sort of saying we've got better weather than what he has. But yeah, but all
But
good.
you're in Melbourne, so that could change this afternoon.
Yeah, this afternoon, absolutely. Well, it's been really good, but hope you guys are well. Thanks for joining in today. Obviously, a much anticipated session today, team. We've got two individuals who obviously we've known for some time. Incredible EBU when Joel and Adrian working here on the Mornington Peninsula under the JC banner and doing incredible things. And of course, both Joel and Adrian have taken different directions in their careers, and Joel's moved north, and Adrian is still with us here on the Mornington Peninsula under the Marshall White brand. So really excited to have both of them on. How are we, guys? How are we doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining in. So it's going to be a great session. We'll wait a couple of minutes while everyone is jumping on. Normally a few minutes in. But look, whilst we've got everyone on and we're waiting for the others, how's the marketplace been? We've just, as everyone knows, I always talk about on FM being October, November, February, March, where in most marketplaces, 40 to 50% of our yearly volumes are being transacted in the 4-month period. And it is an exciting period, and I know we've just come off a record month ourselves, selling close to $400 million of property in the last 30 days, which is sensational and a really strong start to November. But how's everyone traveling across the country? It'd be great to sort of hear from you guys in the field. What are we seeing, and what are people doing actually to capitalize on it?
You can go first, Adrian.
We've seen a bit more like active buyer activity, which is good. So I think over those winter months, there was a lot of people coming and up what they're doing, whether they're putting their places on the market to obviously upsize or downsize and move into the area. We still get a lot of clientele. I'm based obviously Mount Eliza, Mornington. We get a lot of push still from those Brighton, Melbourne regions pushing down. A lot of their auctions don't kick off until sort of October, November. So a lot of those have now transacted, and we've seen a bit of an influx over the past sort of 3 or 4 weeks, which has been good. So
yeah, much the same up here. We sold to predominantly local buyers and Brisbane buyers on the sunny coast through the winter months, and we had a lot of subject to sale activity in August and September, which I didn't really engage in, but a lot of agents in our area will. And conveyancers sort of telling us they've never had so many sales fall over because there wasn't a genuine buyer at the beginning of that actual chain. So I'm glad we held firm. We did have a couple go through, but we'd done enough due diligence that they were going to get a result on the other end, spoke to their agent, knew that it was a saleable property and the right price point. But then the beginning of October, we saw interstate buyers actually with results on their property purchasing, and some that ended up taking longer settlements with stronger deposits instead of putting down conditions. So yeah, we had a brilliant month, and expecting that's going to roll right up to Chrissy. We're holding quite a bit of stock still, so it hopefully will be a good little 6-week run into the Christmas period.
Yeah, I think so. And speaking a little bit off air before everyone was jumping on, I do believe that 2025, especially for the Melbourne market, is going to be an extraordinary market. It's been very flat for the last 2 years, especially 22, 23. 23, 24 has been a little bit better for everyone. But 25 is going to be Melbourne's turn to really capitalise. And I think I don't see prices increasing, but I see volumes increasing, because I think the capacity for buyers to purchase and the leniency and the ability for the mortgage industry to lend more money is going to be there. Are you seeing that buyers' capacity has increased even just recently, guys?
yeah, I definitely have in our marketplace. And I think there's a sense in the market that we've sort of reached that bottom point where buyers are probably, or a lot of people, I should say, are now like, well, now is the time to actually jump in or upsize that property before things start to rise again. So, which is good, having a bit more activity like that. You know, some more positive results and multiple offer situations coming back into play.
Yeah.
You still have to work hard for it though, trust me. It's not easy.
Yeah, the hustle. I don't think that Adrian, the hustle ever leaves. And you know, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I will. We were speaking to a tech entrepreneur last week, and we're just talking about obviously some tech platforms and what they're doing in that space. And there was about half a dozen of us in the call, and one of the participants turned around and goes, "Oh, look, you know, I'm just really looking for the inbound, because tech, you know, it's all inbound, and everyone signs up and don't talk to anyone." And this very, very successful entrepreneur turned around and he goes, and he just gave it to him, and he just goes, "Mate, I don't know of any tech platform of anyone not doing the hustle to actually get clients on board in business." So forget that it's tech, forget that it's traditional, you know, business. The hustle is always there, because he's been doing it for 30 years and it's never changed. So it doesn't matter, even if it's tech and you think it's going to be automated, mate, there's no such thing as inbound. It's all outbound, and you've got to capitalize on it. So it was a really good learning exercise, because sometimes we think the grass is greener on the other side, but it's not. The hustle is everywhere. So on that note, thanks again for everyone to joining in. And I know we're going to get a few more people on throughout the session, but I'll start through the presentation, because I know everyone will be eager to hear from Joel and from Adrian. And once again, thank you so much, guys, for giving up your time. We know how extremely busy period this is for everyone to be actually listing and selling. It is our on FM period, so highly appreciate your time that you're taking out to share your knowledge with the Black Salt community. So again, it'll be remiss of me not to mention our industry partners. Black Salt can't happen without our industry partners, so a big shout out to obviously everyone that's participating and contributing from the industry partners to make this happen. And of course, we're into session, the Thursday session for the virtual 12-month membership, which is incredible buyer work. And just make a note that in December, we've got setting up for a massive 2025. So the virtual sessions, again, are being recorded. I know not everyone from the community can jump on at every session, but they are being recorded. And as we know, they're being hosted on the Black Salt portal. So all the slides, all the workbooks are there. All the sessions from Black Salt 24 are there. And of course, our Black Salt 25 session will be obviously hosted there as well, coming up in December. So again, you can go through those. There's transcripts as well of these sessions. So the beauty about it is, if there's something that you've heard, you don't have to listen to the whole 1-2 hour sessions to get your learnings from it. So a big shout out, obviously, to the back end support team that make that possible. I don't know how you do it, but you do a great job of it. Of course, there's the workbooks as well that we work through. And can I just say, I know I'm jumping the gun, but I think you're going to be blown away by the new workbooks that we're putting together, and the program for Black Salt 2025 and the 12-month. It's totally been changed to last year's additional content and the flow. We had some fantastic feedback that we've actioned, and really looking forward to presenting those workbooks and the tools that's going to be available to get people really on track. And that's the whole purpose of Black Salt, to keep everyone on track and reaching those milestones within their real estate career. But with more on that a little bit later. And of course, today's session, incredible buyer work with Joel and Adrian. I personally have been stoked to obviously have these guys on board, because I think there's no two better agents in the field that have actually obviously done great buyer work. So I'll hand it over to Joel and to Adrian. But if you want to just give a 5 minutes brief on your careers and obviously when you work together before we get into the presentation, guys, that would be really great.
Well, I might start off, Adrian, because I'm a little bit older than you, mate. So just marginally, I will say, by the way. What were you say?
Definitely look at the name.
So I had a lot more hair before Adrian started with me. So that was the catalyst. But yeah, so I started my career in 2013 with my auntie and uncle for a year, and then rolled into working with the group that was EV Group then, and now Agents Agency in 2014. And had a lovely assistant, Melanie, come on as my admin assistant probably 6 months later, and then ran into Adrian. I was introduced by a mutual friend, and it wasn't a time in my career where I really had the capacity financially to do it, but met the young man and knew that it was something that just basically had to happen. Walked in JC's office and said, how do we do this sort of thing? So, and that was that the beginning? That was the beginning of 2016, Adrian?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that year, this is back when you had to do 80, 90 sales to write $1 million, but we cracked it that year. And that was the beginning of a really good friendship and obviously working relationship. And we put another team member on in Corey and then Tyler. So we sort of worked as an EBU of 4, and it got to the middle of 2020 and we parted ways. I came up to Queensland and did a bit of corporate work and restarted Joelhood Property 2 years ago. And Adrian's gone out and joined a very successful business and grown a very successful business. But essentially, Adrian was my right-hand man. I dealt with all the buyers, and Adrian came on and he dealt with all the buyers. And I can say firsthand, nobody does it better. I'm probably a little bit hard on my current team because I saw how hard Adrian worked and how many calls he made, and was exceptional. It couldn't spell to save his life, but he could make calls and create relationships. So, and that was really the edge. We literally took off, and I think Adrian's going to talk about the amount of clients he now has that were originally his buyers, but that's where all the relationships began. So just over a decade in the industry for me now, and absolutely love it. That's me, AC.
Thank you, Joel. And by the way, we are the same age. We're not in terms of age, you just look a lot older. So before getting to real estate, I was a bricklayer by trade, and obviously a very physical and hard job. Joel was actually a plumber prior, which is funny. We're both tradies at heart. But I got in the industry, had a bit of a health scare back in 2015. So I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, which sort of changed my path. Blessing in disguise, forced me to do something I actually wanted to do and enjoy. So made the move and harassed Joel to actually get a sit down. He didn't call me back for about a week. So that was good also. But yeah, we had mutual friends, and he gave me my first start in real estate, which was fantastic. So joined the crew down at EBU with JC in the Mornington Peninsula, and hit the road obviously in 2016. Just had my second child, and literally just hit the ground running. I was given a call sheet about 25,000 pages long. I was told find some buyers and work with those buyers, and that's what I did. So we were together for 5 years, I think, before you made a move up. And honestly, to be able to work with Joel and then the individuals obviously within the team sort of gave me a great footprint to when I actually rolled out on my own 5 years later and joined Marshall White. So everything I learned during that period of time, I've adopted and put within my own business here. And the basics is obviously what got us here. So it's been, I think, 8 years now, and it's been a phenomenal ride. So.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly mention as well, Manos. So yeah, obviously I've come to the Sunshine Coast, started completely brand new August 2022, and today's session is basically what I've leveraged my business on. So didn't have any friends, family in the area. It was a complete cold start, and it all started with getting that first listing, and then literally just nurturing every single buyer. So I guess whoever's listening today, it was started our business down in Vic, but second time round coming up with the knowledge and not being fresh to the industry. What we're going to talk about today was something that I went, okay, just every single person has to be, nurtured, serviced to 100% because I need, the market to know, what our business stands for. And we're now at 14 team members. So I've sort of got 4 in my EBU, and they're all fairly green still, but I still absolutely love working with buyers, but they'll sort of do the beginning work when they're on the colder side, and then I'll start to work with them as they get a bit warmer.
Yeah, great, great introduction, guys, and a perfect a segue into the first topic that we're going to be talking about is statistics and lead generation, the statistics of buyer work and the lead generation challenge that the industry has. And all credit to you, Joel, because it's so true. It's actually start brand new, but thankfully you had the knowledge to start brand new. It took you 15 months to do your first $1 million. In your last 12 months, what GCI has the business written?
Good question, mate. I think we worked out, Adrian asked me, so I think we're on 1.75 for this calendar year. So 250 to try and hit the 2 mark. And the goal was 1.6, and then it was this financial year we wanted to do 2. But as you know, we wrote 400 last month, and we've got plenty of stock and correctly priced listings. So we should hopefully hit the 2 mark this calendar year. It's been a fairly rapid growth pattern up here.
And I think the important thing is that you haven't done anything too different. There's no magic dust. There's no magic bullet. And what we said before, it's the constant hustle is required. The constant hustle, but doing the right things at the right time. And I think, and I'll share these statistics with everyone because it's so important that we've got evidence of someone using these statistics to their benefit, because there's one thing bringing up some statistics and there's one thing actually applying what they actually tell you. And of course, we know the marketplace, the buyer is the seller and the seller is the buyer. And often real estate agents forget that. They forget that the person that we're servicing as the buyer will eventually be the seller in the future and vice versa. And they're always taking our measure. And statistically, and this is the big light bulb moment that I'm really hoping everyone takes away so they can get some real value from today's session of the importance of perfecting the buyer. Because why does the industry, do you think, guys, have a challenge with buyers? What do you think that challenge is in regards to following up buyers, and why does the industry have that bad perception, do you think?
Most are looking for new business all the time and not actually taking into account that the people they sold to 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago are more than likely going to hit the market again. So they forget that that's your database, that's your pipeline. So instead of chasing always new business, and I spoke to an agent who's been in the industry 4 or 5 years, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm struggling at the moment. I'm not getting, new business as regularly as I once was." But he wasn't concentrating on his previous database or his previous clients. He was concentrating on going through core data with cold calls. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, there's so much gold within the clients you've already represented or the clients that you've sold to. You've already got that rapport and relationship with them. So the fact is that a lot of agents, they get busy being busy. They don't pick up the phone. They stop doing the fundamentals of real estate, which is actually being heard and seen in your marketplace. It's just frightening.
I think Manos, initially there should be no excuses because you don't have enough people to speak to. So I was like, okay, well, who can I call? Great, 3 buyers, or I'm just going to absolutely hammer these guys. And then obviously it grows. And I think the issue is that it grows to a point, and we'll talk about this later, where you just don't set yourself up to then be able to service those buyers because you are getting busier and you don't put a buyer's agent or associate on that's going to assist with that service. And that's been our thing. I don't want that level of service for the brand to drop. So I'd rather overstaff than under. But I think the other thing is a lot of the time, and we'll get to this as well, so I won't go into too deep, But it's just like it's asking the right questions from the beginning and qualifying, because some people are genuinely going to chew 20 minutes of your time. And we get a lot of people from interstate here that dream of living on the sunny coast, but it's like a pipe dream. It's, 1, 2, 5, 10 years. And that's an email, and that's, just, maybe an SMS every once in a while. That's not a 20-minute conversation versus someone else that's committed to a school, committed to a job. They know, that they're serious. They're doing something within the next 3, 6, 9 months. And they're the people that, you really focus on. And if you unfortunately don't follow those people up, then that would have been the future business that you've let go. So I think the answer to your question is probably asking the right questions at the beginning to make sure that you're servicing in the way that they need to be serviced.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it, because I think most people, especially when they first get into real estate, they spend so much time with buyers and they don't get the reward from servicing so buyers. And, for lack of a better expression, the people that are going to chew up 30 minutes of your time and not do anything immediately. And so people get put off. They get that mentality of, well, I've got to service clients as in vendors, not buyers, because that's not returning me a return. But this is the statistic. So, and I think it's a real invaluable one. When buyers resell, right? So this is a statistic everyone can do. So 80% do not use the agent they bought off. So I want everyone to really understand this, and I've brought it up numerous occasions through the Black Salt training, is that if you just looked at the last 50 listings that came up in your area in realestate.com and just looked at the time those properties were actually purchased by the current vendor, right, and see if they've used the same agent. In many, well, the average is about 83% do not use the agent that they bought off, which is a real light bulb. It should be a light bulb moment for everyone to say, well, that means they're possibly not getting reconnected, bad service, they're not leaving an impression, all that sort of stuff. Would everyone agree? Yeah, the best I've actually seen is in the Hastings, where 60% of people didn't use their agent, but 40% did use the agent they bought off. So that told me in that marketplace, in the Hastings marketplace, I haven't researched every marketplace, by the way. I'm keen on statistics, but not that keen. It's an exercise everyone should do. But you should be doing this in your own marketplace to discover, well, who is actually providing great service, who's your competition, and you'll find that, an agent that gives great service is getting repeat business all the time. And Adrian, I think just off air, if you want to just share your statistic in the last 12 months, how many of your current 12-month sales have been past purchases?
Yeah, I worked that out just before coming on, obviously, this week. We sort of review it at the end of the year where all of our leads have come from, but 40% of my business this year has come from past purchases. So past people I've sold to, or whether it be with Joel and our team, or even recently as, been with Marshall White for 4 years now. And we have had sellers come on the market within 2 years, or most recently, as I mentioned off air, I had a client I sold to and she's reselling again 6 months down the track. So it's just staying in touch with those people religiously. It's so important, that frequency of contact.
And that's a really important statistic in regards to when do they resell, because this is the statistic, how quickly do some buyers resell. And again, if you do this in your marketplace, and I'm not saying you got to do it every week, but certainly once a year, just to review, to see your market movements, is how quickly do some buyers resell? It's 20%. 20% sell within a 12 to 36 month period. So I want everyone to really think about that. What does that actually mean, right? So let's look over, 12 to 36 months, and it's a 2-year, 24-month window, right? So we're in 2024 at the moment. So let's just think of 2022 and 2023. If in your immediate area there were 500 sales in 2022 and 2023, there's 1,000 people who purchased properties in a 24-month period. And this statistic, and it's so simple to analyze, tells you that 20% of them, 200 of them, are likely to come onto the market in the next 12 months or have already come onto the market. And as Adrian said, there was one of his purchases just 6 months ago who have come back onto the market. So there's a ready source of what I would consider now vendors if we just kept in touch, which tells you what else does that sort of, what else does that tell us in regards to servicing buyers that don't purchase off us and they purchase off competitors?
Well, I think that's where, I think the team here, and I think when maybe you don't hold as much stock, if you don't have an answer, like if you don't have what the person is looking for, sometimes you think, I won't call them. So they can go 2-3 weeks without a call. Whereas I look and say, your role really should be just check in and say, listen, I'm calling. I unfortunately don't have anything for you today, but I did just want to check, how's the house hunting going and has your situation changed? And sometimes I go, you know what, Joel, we actually realized that after looking, we've got to increase our budget by a couple $100,000 and we're going through the broker at the moment. And then it's like, oh, great. Because when you hear that person purchase for 1.5 and you're just only saying the property is 1.3 and you think, oh, the buyer lied to me. It's like, well, you actually didn't ask the right questions. That person could. And in regards to, staying in touch, I was losing my train of thought, Manos. This is what happens whenever
staying in touch if they've purchased another property off a competitor.
Well, and sorry, I'll beat Adrian on the one he said before, because he said 6 months. So we had a client buy through another agent in December of 2023, and then we relisted their property and sold it in March of 2024. So they came up from Victoria. Unfortunately, the kids didn't click at the new school and they missed family. They made an immediate move back down south. So we assisted them with preparing the property for sale, staged it, and sold it within a few weeks for about 130 grand more than what they paid. They didn't interview anybody else. They literally called us in to sign the business on the basis of how we service them. So we didn't obviously sell them the property, but they went through the journey of purchasing and they felt that we were the right fit to represent them. So I think that's where, don't get sour if they're buying from somebody else. Congratulate them, stay in touch to find out what they purchased. And if they purchased in an area you're going to continue to service, make sure you put the details in the system, mark them as someone to follow up. Some obviously come on very quickly like that. But a lot of the other times, they're going to come back to you. I wouldn't say my follow-up is brilliant, probably like Adrian, but the way I've made them feel is hopefully going to get me back in the door down the track.
Yeah, and that's an important point too. It's the way you make them feel when they first purchase. Leave a great memorable experience, they will remember you. But that's great. And David, thank you so much for sharing. Interesting, because I know you did that research, and you researched 2023, 30 listings to list in your marketplace. 11 of them, of the properties, had purchased within 3 years. That's 33%, team. 1 in 3 is we're coming back onto the market. But of course, 3 of them use the same agent. So that's 90% didn't use the same agent they bought off. That's phenomenal. And David, did you do anything armed with that knowledge? Did you do anything that you could say you actually prospected and you secured some listings? Did you follow up some purchases and said, far out, I actually got a listing from it?
I think as a team, we just followed it up and made sure that we got a lot better at our follow-up of the people. I always say our next listings is within arm's length. And so it's just following up who we got in our database. So I couldn't go back to one listing and say we got it just based on that, but we definitely have picked up, and we've improved our market share immensely, and I think that's part of it through the marketing off the back of that.
Love it. That's awesome. And I guess we've got a this was a study done by CoreLogic, the perception of real estate agents, and obviously they referred in this part of the study to buyers. How would you rate your overall experience buying your property? And the statistics kind of say everything, don't they? If they say 14% say excellent, well, there's your 80% that felt they didn't, and they're not using the same agent they purchased off. So again, I'm often asked, what's a really good point of difference to be out there in the marketplace, to be, to wow everyone? I say, well, just be really good at buyer work, because you're going to smash it out. There's a point of difference. But sometimes it doesn't, inverted commas, doesn't sound sexy. Doesn't, just be great. Call them back. I've always said one of the litmus tests that you should have is hearing quite often, and I'd love to hear your feedback, guys. Do you hear you're the only agent that calls us back? Like, if you're not getting that sort of feedback, maybe you're not making enough calls and getting back to people. So,
Manos, I love that they've got disastrous. That I thought average, poor, bad, or average, poor, terrible, but disastrous. I mean, it's not just 1%. That's 3 out of every 100. That's bad.
I know. So that's 1 in 30. 1 in 30 sales. Like, really get granular. And when you look at your marketplace, there's 1 in 30. And imagine if they're saying disastrous, what they're saying about you in the marketplace, what they're saying about that particular agent in the marketplace. So really, really important. And of course, from a lead generation point of view, it's a real simple funnel that the buyers work through. They obviously awareness begins from general advertising and obviously some sponsorships or whatever in your marketplace. Listings, of course, is the most important one. Okay, so I've always said listings is your billboard. It's your best billboard in the marketplace. And of course, when it comes to buyers, they get into an agent's database or get connected with an agent as soon as they inquire on a property and they come to open for inspections. And then the majority of the time they spend there, and then obviously they're making a decision to obviously list their own property. They go through the funnel in what they call the decision confirmation phase, where they go to the agent's website. Hence why we should keep that always up to date. Client referrals is a really big one, guys. As we know, vendor and obviously a vendor pitch is then, and then of course validation is service delivery when it comes to buyer work. So that's the opportunity that we have. So I'll always talk about our industry, and this quote is from Jason Rose. I won't take the credit for this quote, but he spoke at a conference many years ago, and he goes, Manos, our industry doesn't have a lead generation challenge; it has a lead follow-up challenge. And I think that's really important for us to understand that incredible buyer work isn't only our primary goal is to make sure that we're maximizing the return for our vendors. It is. There's absolutely no question. Buyers come to the properties. We're there to sell a property and have a successful result. But of course, what we need to be doing is filling our pipeline with future sellers by just delivering great service and just being that human that actually cares, which obviously we'll talk about a little bit later. So following on from that, and I'll hand it over to the guys as they talk about, obviously the session insights today is to product knowledge and world-class OFIs, frequency builds trust, asking the right questions, creating a hot list, work with the database. When should a lead agent engage a full-time buyer's assistant and be accessible and genuinely care? And product knowledge and world-class OFIs. And I'll hand it over to you, Adrian, because as we know, bed, bath, car, land size doesn't cut it anymore. Just having product knowledge like that, what makes great knowledge, and of course, what makes for a world-class OFI, and outside of a world-class OFI, a great buyer inspection.
I think, knowing a property you're listing to start with, accommodation's it's easy for them to see, but we have a product sheet that we present in every open home, and the ins and outs of property. So it's, what sort of heating system is it? What's the energy rating? Those types of things that a buyer can't just physically see, and they're questions that are constantly asked. And I guess when you're handling large volumes of property, it sort of holds, it's something we can refer back to as well all the time, so we're across everything. But I think from a world-class open home point of view, one, it's been punctual. So how many times I hear from buyers in my marketplace that the agent rocks up to their open home either right on 2 o'clock when the opens at 2 or 5 minutes after is actually frightening. So making sure that if you are handling a large volume of listings, you've got team to support, so the home is open 15 minutes prior, as in you're there, set up, everything's ready to go. Everything's on display, lights are on, music's playing, candles are lit. Or I'll digress, I'll go back a step. Your open home boards, as in your pointer boards on a Saturday, what time are they actually put out? Are they first thing in the morning, or are they getting done at 9 a.m, an hour before you first open at 10? In our instance, Joel obviously opens up a little bit earlier in Queensland. They're just little 1% points of difference. I'm not saying you have to be flashing, have champagne and things like that at your opens. It's not about that. It's just having everything on point. The home's clean and tidy. You're there 15 minutes, 20 minutes prior. If the front lawn needs a bit of a sweep up, or the pavement, I should say, you actually do those 1%ers, because first impressions count, particularly in a marketplace that has been a little bit light on, let's be honest. In Melbourne, it's been a bit of a tough slog for 2 years. Everything you can do to make sure that that first impression with the buyer is good, it'll go a long way. And then it's, how do you greet a buyer when they come to the home? Are you checking in name and numbers? Are you asking for their name before their contact number? How many agents actually ask for their number first and don't even introduce themselves? It's actually scary. So, but it's true. Like, you know, I've had staff members that have, you know, been in the industry, come on board, and that's how they greet people. It's just showing them that when you are introducing yourself, make sure you ask for their names first, not their number. It's just small little things that I think go a long way with people.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were pretty religious with our pointer boards in Vic, and we've engaged somebody. It's common here that the core flutes will go out the day before with a lot of agents, and ours are not cheap. A-frames, the $160 ones, so clearly on a Friday night, don't want them being thrown in the bushes. So ours go out about 5 in the morning. I was doing them myself. I've now paid a gentleman who comes in Friday afternoon, collects them, has got a map, and then we sort of pick them up in the afternoon on the Saturday. But, you know, we saturate the area heavily, and it does assist people when we're telling them, you know, did you see this property? They say no. I follow the boards to the next property and come along and see us. So we're trying to make the most of every buyer that we meet. The absolute game changer for us, without a doubt, it is what has leveraged our business to no end, is 2 people at an open home. It's absolutely critical. So it's what we pitch in the lounge room. It's what we win a lot of business on. And like Adrian just mentioned, then if we're going from one open to the next, and we do have a bit of distance between some of ours, one person leaves, you know, sort of 25 past if it's a 20-minute drive, for instance, and then I would stay at the open while the next person goes and gets the property set up. So when I walk in, even if I have to be there literally right on time because I've stayed with the previous person another 10 minutes, it could have been a deal put together. The place is 100%. Buyer walks in, you know, heating, cooling, like Adrian just mentioned, candles. We always have light music. We all have the same Spotify playlist. So you're going to hear the same music through all of our opens. You don't have AC/DC kicking off at one and then, you know, trance at the next. We have sort of a particular type of music we like to play that just sort of, you know, cafe music, just gets people talking. But the 2 people in open is just mission critical. And, you know, for me at the beginning, I didn't know anyone. So of course, yep, I'm happy to be at the front door. But now, like, you know, I'm supposed to know a lot of people, and it's really handy when the team checks somebody in. I'm like, oh, okay, yep, that's someone I appraised, you know, a few months ago. Good to know. Yep, I've forgotten the face. But, you know, for me, just that greeting, like Adrian mentioned, we just try and diffuse the situation, because I don't know if you guys have gone to an open home recently, but I've been to other agents' open homes, and it's a little bit, you know, you get some butterflies. Like you're going into their space, they're taking your details. It's a bit, you know, confronting. Yeah. So just whatever you can do, you know, when they get out of the car. I remember I was in an open with Jared Carmen very early on, and they got out of the car, and, you know, he just made a bit of fun. He was like, hey guys, you know, hey, how you going? And they were sort of like, you know, what's going on here? But by the time they got to the door, they were really relaxed, you know, they were interested in chatting to him. And he really broke the ice and just said, you know, my name's Jared, you might not forget your details. And so you're asking for permission. You put the information, if you've got time, it's asking questions like, where have you come from today? I don't think we've met before, you know, and they'll say, oh, we're just down the road. Oh, okay, you're looking at making a move, or just a bit of research? We're researching. Great, potential vendor, bang, you know. So it's just a little bit of info. If you do have a, you know, a line quite long. Adrian's first open home he did with me, I said, just stand to the side, mate, I'll take it from here. And we had 69 groups through. So Adrian comes scurrying over with the iPad, and he just, you know, we're checking in. So that was a bit of a swift learning curve. But traditionally, we're just trying to give people a nice greeting. I'll always be inside the home answering questions. It's my job to be very knowledgeable on the property. And the team obviously would introduce at the front. But sometimes they'll get dragged inside with a person. We try not to leave that front door, but I'll see the gap and then I'll go to the front door and I'll, do the check-in. So we're working cohesively as a team. We've sort of got a plan in mind as to, who's going to the next property. Our kits are all prepared on a Friday. We pick up the box on a Friday afternoon. There's no we're missing this, we're missing that. It's been very well prepped and organised for game day. I think I've got 18 open homes that are my physical listings on Saturday. So, we need this coming Saturday. We need to be really well organised. And if you're rushed and you're flustered and you're tired and it's getting bloody hot up here now, people can read that. So you want to be 100% organised. And I just can't tell you how many potential vendors. I know they say 1 in 4, but I'm telling you it's more. There are so many more coming through our open homes, and there are so many that are on the market that can't sell their property, and then they're walking through our open and they're going, okay, this is a different level, and we'll secure that business at 90 days.
Yeah, can you also, would you sort of say by mission critical having 2 people that open for inspections and obviously the way you present, do you get pushback on your fees when people obviously engage with you and they see how you conduct yourself? Do you think that helps you in protecting your fee as well, Joel?
Yeah, we had a mistake the other day. A vendor didn't understand the number I told her in the negotiation. And so she thought we said 1,226,000, but it was actually 1,260,000. And I was saying how well we negotiated to get that buyer up to that level. And she's like, you haven't gotten very far at all, Joel. And she asked to, negotiate on the fee then and there. And I said to her, well, don't forget, you've had 2 agents working on your property this whole time. We've worked bloody hard to get it there. So it was a bit funny that she asked because she misunderstood. And trust me, she was very happy after the fact. But I had no qualms in saying exactly that, Manos. You've had 2 agents working exceptionally hard at every open home to secure this result. If we have gotten that to the max, no one else would have gotten it further. And like you said, there's no pushback.
Yeah, and in regards to something that you mentioned earlier in the piece, Joel, and these are the little light bulb moments that I remember. And I remember you saying that you're doing private inspections, because there's one thing doing a great OFI, but doing private inspections. And you had booked a private inspection on a Tuesday or something like that. And then you said, bugger it, I'll put it on realestate.com as an open for inspection. You ended up having 2 or 3 people at a private inspection. You still put the flag at the front, you put a pointer board at the front of the property and so forth. Do you want to just share that that little 1%er?
Yeah, I think it's just as an agent, just having the foresight to say, okay, will this benefit the situation? There's some clients where you're taking them through for a private and they need that one-on-one time with you. So you don't really want to be bringing in people and distracting you from that serious person. But if you do have someone that you think they're going to benefit from seeing a little bit of competition, I know I've got some others to get there, or obviously I don't want to bother the seller with 3 privates this week. I'd rather do the one open and I'll get those 3 or 4 into a competitive environment. It's just opening it up that way. And that particular situation, I'm fairly certain, the one you're referring to, the person needed to see other people. The person was being a little bit difficult, and they were, genuine buyers that we got to the property and they were also interested. So that just made the negotiation a hell of a lot easier. And it's more exposure. It's boards out midweek, it's flag out midweek, it's activity in the area. So to me, I look and go, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's much better and much easier than sitting at the office. So,
if you've already got a buyer to go in, the vendor's leaving the property anyway. What an opportunity to actually open it up to everyone else. So the house is clean, ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's a great service to your vendors. There's no question, but great service to the buyers. Now, in regards to product knowledge, outside of that, do you give out a list of extra details on the property, or it's just verbalized at the open for inspection or at the private inspection?
So we do a proper checklist, I guess, or of some property detail, and we display it at every open home. So every home is different. But it's in our pack. So we have a pack for every property that comes around with us, like Joel was saying. I haven't changed anything with our business that Joel's doing up there. So it just helps, particularly, everything. Buyers go to your they will grab a brochure if you haven't handed them one. You should be. But they'll look at the Section 32, they'll peruse things, particularly if they have interest in the property. And then if you've got a checklist of, the ins and outs of the home that, might be a little bit unique, it's front of mind, it's in their face. So they know about it, and it's great.
You jogged my memory, Adrian, in regards to brochures. I had an agent recently say, "Oh, we don't do brochures. We're going green," inverted commas, or that we just give them the link to the property. Do you think it has the same effect, or do you think people still want the touchy-feely, a good quality brochure? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm a huge believer in brochures personally. I get the whole green thing, I understand that, but I think when buyers are actively looking in the market and they're going through 3 or 4 open homes, it's not so much the photos I want them to have, it's the floor plan. So buyers go away, if they like the home, they'll start envisioning where their furniture goes and having room sizes and things like that on the brochure. It's really important. Yes, I get it, they can click in the link, but I'd rather than have that marketing material to touch and feel. It's got our details on it. It's just easier. So I find them really handy. I have a lot of vendors sometimes that push back and say, we don't want brochures, we don't believe they work. Trust me, they work.
Yeah, and I think I agree, Manos. I think the quality of the marketing reflects the quality of the property. And, for me, I think, again, that was a point of difference in our marketplace, coming up with a nice high quality 4-page brochure. People kind of looking as if it's something they've never really seen before. They're not that dear. And I'm all for sustainability. I say to people at the end of the day, if you don't want to use it after the tour, you're more than welcome to put it on the table, but it's got a floor plan on the back. It's going to help you to understand the property, and it's obviously far bigger than your phone is. And, some do, probably 1 in 10 would put it back on the bench, but we utilize all of ours for vendor education. When they're not used, they go into the cabinet, and then we take leftover brochures to our appraisals and talk there our sold stories. And again, that's showing off the quality of the marketing and the quality of the property. But yeah, I think to me, they're a really good resource tool, and I genuinely don't see the pushback from clients now.
Yeah, Joel, you know what my belief is, if you look like a David Jones, people are going to expect to pay more. If you look like a big W, people are going to expect to pay less. So, if someone said to me, they use a photocopier brochure from the photocopier, I would be saying I wouldn't use it, because I think that's downgrading the quality of the property. You're better off using a digital link, as far as I'm concerned, because quality does convey the quality of the home, 100%.
Just on that quickly, Manos, as well. So when people do come, they get checked in, they get a welcome SMS through our CRM, and the link is obviously there. And that link actually allows them to make an offer on the property. It goes to our website. So, if that is important to them, they do have the option. But ultimately, as I said, most people find the brochure really valuable and handy to use.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the make an offer button, if it's not available to everyone, you should have it. Props is a phenomenal and one of our industry partners on this. It's got so many levels to it, but it certainly has changed the game in regards to negotiating and obviously extracting offers from buyers, which we can go into a little. Well, actually, while we're on the topic, how is the digital offer working for you, Joel?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I was just thinking now when you said it, because the one day I didn't want to negotiate, I wanted to be left alone and had a few drinks and watch the footy. It was grand final day. And we got back home, and the phone was just lighting up with offers that people had made that day. And I thought, oh, for goodness sake. And then the following week, same thing. I was going out to dinner on the Saturday night with a team member and his wife and my wife, and there's a really nice restaurant. We booked for 5:30, and same thing. There's the offers coming in, quickly making the calls. So we use it as a tool where we'll send the link to people and say, listen, rather than us making a mistake over the phone with the spelling of your name and whatnot, I'm going to send you this link. If you wouldn't mind filling it out, including your middle name, just your offer and the terms. And if you don't understand all of it, we can go through it together on the phone afterwards. And that's the beginning. The other thing we have up here is a little bit of a different rule around legislation, or the REIQ in general doesn't like the open and transparent nature of an open negotiation. They prefer closed envelope. You put your offer in, that's it. You don't go back and forth. And that's not the way that I am. I believe that's a messenger, not a negotiator. And when I spoke to them, they said, well, just be mindful that if obviously there's a complaint made that, we need to verify that the person exists. So I understood why they were asking that.
Yeah, gotcha.
To rule out the cowboys. So that make an offer form is fantastic, because when it comes through, Caitlin from the team saves it in the file, and we can go through and it's got the client's full details and obviously the 5 offers that were made on that property if we ever got audited. So it's just a really good starting point. It avoids spelling mistakes on clients' names. I haven't taken it to the next level where I utilize it in an open forum. That's a personal preference, because I like to control the negotiation. I personally like to speak to people to push that price up and also give clients feedback. I recently advised the seller to take the 1.47 offer over the 1.485. And that's because the 1.485 to me was really flighty, and there were going to be a problem with the build and pest, because up here it's to the buyer's satisfaction. It's not major structural. And so, that was my 11 years of experience to say to that client, I think this deal could fall over, and I think the 147 is the one we need to take. So that level of control you don't sometimes get through a digital platform.
Yeah, no, I think that's gold. And Steph, can I get you to put Matilda's details in the chat box, so anyone who wants to reach out and find out more info on props and how they can apply it in their business, just share that link there and her email address. That'll be fantastic if you could do that. So because they've been Vicky Gardner, we love props. Yeah, there's a lot of people that use it, and they've done really well. Awesome. Okay, off to the next topic, which is frequency builds trust. So this one's a really important one, because a lot of people set up some trails to follow, obviously the buyer journey and so forth. But if you can just share, when is it, know when to call, when to SMS, when to stop calling, when to stop emailing. Can you just give us an overview of your buyer process?
Oh, the screen has just gone funny.
It's you and me, AC. We're running the show, mate. Manos is gone.
Oh, he's left the building.
No. I think you lost the slides, Manos.
Here we go.
Yeah, you're worse than Arthur.
Sorry, guys. Let me just share them again.
That's all right. AC, you can start, mate. So when to call, what's your process with calling buyers and follow up?
Never stop calling. Look, from my point of view, I want to get it to a point where my name is saved in their phone. Like that's the biggest thing, when they're actually picking up the phone and saying, Adrian, how are you? Actively looking. That's what you want to get to. So some buyers don't want to be called, I get that. And if they're not actively looking in the market, I guess it's asking the right questions from the start to understand that. If they're a potential vendor that's researching for 6 to 12 months before they decide to do something, it's extracting that information, I guess, in the first 1 or 2 instances. That's not harassing them. So active buyers, though, they need to be called every 3 days to 7 days, in my opinion. Whether it's you've got something to sell them, whether it's someone in your office that has something that you can obviously take them to, or if there's active listings, like we religiously refer buyers that we're working with, have you seen this listing on the market with O'Brien or with Ray White or with eView or whoever it is? It's building that trust that way. If you're doing those things, the buyer at the other end is saying, hang on a minute, Adrian wants to help me find a house. It's not a transaction for him. And that builds trust straight away. So it's knowing that side of it, as in you're building a relationship. You may not sell, you'd love to sell them a house, don't get me wrong, but it's more important to me, the relationship for future business. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, Adrian, that's such an important. I remember first getting into real estate, and 2 things which blew my mind about real estate is how much real estate agents were willing to share their knowledge, right? And then when someone said to me, he goes, make sure, when you're helping a buyer, do exactly that. If you know there's a property with another agent, help them purchase that property, refer it to them. And we had the pleasure of spending 2 hours with James Tosselman one time when he was doing his prospecting calls and paying $2,000 for 2 hours. A lot of money back then, still is now, of course. But I'm thinking he's a clever dude. He was forced to do his prospecting sessions and getting paid 3 sessions a week, $6,000 a week. Me being the maths guy, I'm thinking that's a really profitable business. But anyway, that wasn't the point. And I remember him demonstrating it because he said to us in that 2-hour session, Manos, I just want to be clear, this is not a training session. You are just here to watch me prospect. That's it. We'll talk a little bit, but it's not a training session. This is real people I'm going to speak to. And he did exactly that. And he rang up buyers and goes, look, haven't come across the right property ourselves, but did you get the one from Jealous Craig that just listed around the corner? What you mean? John hasn't rang you about that one yet? I thought you were dealing with him and like throwing bombs and everything. I'm thinking this was absolutely fantastic. So, but again, do the right reason. And I know from our team, when Arthur was listing and selling, how many times he would refer people to, to our to Ash Martin directly and say, hey, Ash, you've got a property. I reckon this buyer is going to really want it. So go for it. Just doing the right thing. And I remember our first 3 months of eView, and eView Real Estate's having its 18-year anniversary on the 20th of November. And I remember in December of 2006, when we had started eView, my first listing came from a buyer that didn't purchase off us, purchased from a competitor, and she came to us because I helped her as a buyer. So it's so important. So, but Adrian, you also mentioned about you have the buyers in your phone. So do you use a database or do you actually put them in your phone? I'm really interested.
I do both. So I think I might have learned this off Joel actually. So for a buyer, I put XXP, the purchaser, and then their name, and then the property that they were looking at. Or if they purchased the property, obviously that's a one. And then same thing for a vendor, I put XXV, and then obviously the vendor's name and where they live. But I use both because the database, yes, it's on your phone, but if I need to scroll through my call list, it's pretty easy to do on my phone as well. But just touching on referrals, so the purchaser that you haven't sold to, but you've serviced them, imagine what they're saying to their family and friends with the service that you've given them, if it's obviously you're doing the right thing, and how many referrals you actually get off that as well. People forget that. They think, oh, we'll get referred from a vendor. You can also get referred from a purchaser. That's the biggest thing. People are people. So, like, for me, that's the most important thing. It's helping them actually secure what they want, knowing what they're looking for, and if it's not with us, someone else will have it in the marketplace, and make sure that it's front of mind for them to actually go and see. And I guess from the frequency of calls and knowing exactly what they're looking for, I can honestly say I don't know anyone who did it better than Joel and I back when we were selling together in terms of off-market sales. I think we were averaging probably 20%, 25% of our sales in our last year, which I think we did, 120 transactions, thereabouts, were off-market deals. And they all come from buyer knowing exactly what the buyer wanted and frequency in contact, and me informing Joel to say, hey, this buyer's looking for this. Joel's got a pipeline of sellers that are coming on the market. Let's see what we can put together. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it's also it's a listing tool though. Even if it wasn't to come together, it was like people say I have a buyer, but this was demonstrating it on steroids. It was getting 5-10 groups through at pretty much a moment's notice. And I think that's the real importance is knowing what to say on the call. So knowing when to call, knowing when to SMS. My issue with SMS is that you can't actually get all the information that you really require to service that client correctly. So it can start that way, but it really does need to develop into a phone call, and it needs to be questions around what that particular person, is seeking and what's important to them, what their life situation is, do they have children, because then you're going to start to direct them down a road. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? We had one this week with the team where a person was very interested in a competing property, and I think there was that concern of, do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? to me, it's really important. We spoke about product knowledge before. You need to know the market absolutely intimately. You need to know what it's worth. And if they are overpaying slightly, it's just simply saying to them, how long do you plan on being there for? And do you mind overpaying? Like, is it the right place for you? How long have you been looking for? And if the answer is yes, just go, well, go for it. You're paying a little bit more. But it's important to be that advocate, because the one that they met us at and then went to the neighboring property, that one listed with us, they bought with someone else 12 months ago. And I only spoke to them 2 or 3 times. I never even met them face to face. They came from Tasmania. And I just gave them my honest assessment on the market and that they were paying around the right price for that property at the time. And I spoke to the daughter as well. Again, she didn't purchase through me, but we just developed a little bit of a relationship. And I went in unopposed and listed it. So then literally full circle, the same thing was happening at that very property with the next buyer that could transact in 12 months' time. So it was very much a case of just simply being clued up with the market enough to say, it may be a little bit above, but tell me, how much do you love it? How long do you plan on being there for? Is it of a concern? If you are paying a little bit more, how long have you been looking? What else have you offered on? Because if you can see they've been looking for 6 or 9 months, sometimes they just need that nudge to go, you know what, maybe it's a little bit more, but you're in a reasonable financial position and you really want to be there. Go for it. And they're going to remember that, because if I get called in 1 or 2 years' time and they say, we want our money back, and I go, remember that chat we had? It was a little bit above. It wasn't, yeah, go for it, you'll be right, and then go back later on. They're going, well, hang on a second. I know you didn't financially benefit, but where was this advice? You're supposed to be a professional here. They're the things you can't get from an SMS. And I think that's where people kind of go, if I'm going to make 30 calls in a day, don't make 30 calls, make like 30 proper connection, 30 relationship creating experiences. And I mean, I enjoy it. I absolutely love it. I actually have no problem.
Yeah, David's just here. Yep.
Who's this?
Yeah,
Joss.
He's making his calls. He's making his calls.
Good. He's creating a relationship.
Yeah. And Joel, I think that's so important, because I often hear, and I'm sure everyone hears it, that there's so many buyers to deal with, especially in a hotter market when, you're getting your 20, 30, 40 people coming through. A little bit different to us now here in Melbourne, where we're getting, much lower numbers and so forth. But how do you manage that volume? And I'm probably going to answer the question for you. You prioritize by asking great questions in the first instance, and then you're categorizing, these are my hot 10 buyers I'm really got to get in touch with. These ones could be, for lack of a better expression, they're colder. So you prioritize your calling that way. Is it through your database? Is it manual? Is it
what Adrian mentioned before as well, I'll just go on that. So he added an extra X. It was XP for purchaser, XV for vendor, because when you scroll down the phone, if you've got John Smith, they're just going to fall into the rest of your contacts. Whereas the XV, you go to an X, you don't have any X's really. So they're all going to be your vendors, or potential vendors. They're all going to be your purchasers. I put the address that I'm expecting them to purchase, or they're getting quite close on, or that they've obviously looked at. And it just jogs my memory. And when they ring to inquire on the next property and I say, hey, Jamie, how you going? They're like, I'm in your phone. I go, oh, just the important people. It just breaks the ice. It's really, really easy to, I suppose just form that friendship a lot quicker. In regards to qualification, I mean, for me, it was a case of, if I felt like the service level was dropping, I'd hire another person. Service level was dropping, hire another person. And that's kind of the way that we built it on. We don't have, it's not massive volume of people or buyers up here, to be completely honest, Manos. It is obviously busier than what I know you guys are experiencing down there, but it's being upfront with the buyer as well. If I happen to list a property outside my service area, I don't promise them that I'm going to stay in touch. I simply say to them, listen, this is an area I'm not going to list something else to be able to show you through. That's the opportunity to refer to someone else. Or we do have a lot of buyer's agents, paid buyer's agents up here. Would you, prefer the services of a buyer's agent? Would you pay them? So there's none of this promise that they're going to hear from you every few days when you just clearly, you're not the right person for them, versus somebody else. It could be a case of their finance isn't approved, or they're not quite ready, they need to sell first. Then you might be going down a different line to sort of get them in the right gear. For us, it's predominantly through the database. We really work existing property call lists. So I think that's where things don't get lost, is if you get routine with printing off, let's just call it 13 Longwood Drive and Pridgeon Springs, you print off the list, both inquiries as well as inspections, and you just, rattle through. To me, if you make that a priority and you print off 4 call lists per day of particular properties, people won't get missed. Adrian was brilliant with those, highlighting which ones I call, which ones he would call, knowing which ones had already been spoken to, someone had purchased. But to me, and then you can take that with you in the car. You can take that, wherever you are, to a build and pest inspection, bank valuation, and you really should get good at printing them off the night before. I think knowing how busy we're getting now, I will make a lot of calls between 7:30 and 8:15 because we can up here, people are up early, but I will knock over. If you looked at my phone, I've done some agent stays work within the sort of the first hour or so, but you have to have it prepped, because half the time you come in and it's like, who am I calling today? And you're like, oh, grab a coffee. And then someone walks in, versus if you come in, the call sheet's ready, you put your headphones on, you start making calls. People come in like, oh, he's busy. And you get through the numbers early in the day, and then you can enjoy the rest of the afternoon if you do get pulled away.
Yeah. Joel, Maria has a fantastic saying, and that is finish a day in writing, which is, e.g., printing off your call list for the next day, or your to-do list for the next day. Finish a day in writing so you can start the next day well ahead without thinking. Invaluable, real basic stuff and fundamentals, but how many are actually not doing it? And going back to some statistics, and everyone knows I love statistics, and I haven't done it of recent, but when I last researched buyer inquiry and what sort of conversion there is between, at any period of time, between 15 to 23 individual buyers going to one particular property gets it sold. So that's the range, and it will obviously vary, but that's an important one for everyone to understand. And so on average, 15 individual groups go through a particular property before we have a sale. 1 in 6 buyers that we transact with, and this is realestate.com statistics, 1 in 6 buyers, they've tracked this, they actually make inquiries through realestate.com, through their emails and, contacting agents. 1 in 6 end up selling their own property as well. So that's a phenomenal figure when we know that 1 in 6 is a potential seller. So you mentioned, I'll go to the next topic. Time-wise, we're doing right. Asking the right questions, Joel, and both of you have given us some great sort of dialogue, but do you have a repertoire of particular questions that you do? I've just put some basic ones there, but outside of these ones, is there a particular favorite you like to hone in on?
Personally, it's obviously letting the conversation flow, but as anyone that's watching any role plays that I've done, you are absolutely on every single phone call trying to get motivation, destination. They are the 2 things, and if you can get it done in 2 questions or 10 questions, 1 minute or 10 minutes, that's what you need to know by the end of every single phone call. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer, it doesn't matter if it's a seller. It's, where are they trying to get to? So what is their destination? And, I had a great one yesterday where I went into the property on my own, and I'm just, I didn't get to do the pre-list call. It was booked in for me by the team. She's not selling. And I know we're getting a little bit off course, but it's a question based. And I get to the front door, and within moments of walking through and looking at the artwork that she's got in beautiful gardens, which I was genuinely connecting with, we asked a few questions, and I got to the point, I said, why would you leave this? And then she just said, I know. And I'm like, do I spot an accent? She's like, I'm a Kiwi. And I'm like, how long have you been here for? 18 years. Do you miss the connections? That's why I'm moving, Joel. I'm like, well, there it was. It was like 5 or 6 questions. It wasn't, hey, this is what your house is worth. This is what the market's doing. It's asking a few things about them, spotting something, asking the question. She felt comfortable enough to open up. But every single phone call I make to a buyer, I'm looking for motivation, destination. And this is with the team. When I'm speaking to them, it's really good to hire new people, because you can actually see where you've potentially grown. It's great to work with people that are really good to obviously listen to them, which we did with JC, just, brilliant, coming with a psychology background, but good to listen to other people, and they'll tell you things and you say, but did you ask this? Where are they coming from? Why are they wanting to move? Have they sold before? And you can see they haven't quite asked, and you realize, oh, okay, yeah, you have come a long way. But I essentially am just wanting to know where they're trying to get to, and obviously what their wish list and all the rest of it is, but the real dynamics of their family, and had they bought and sold before, they offered on other properties, but the motivation, and that's probably the biggest one, because that's when you said before, who do I call when's too much? If they are very motivated, they have a particular deadline, like that couple from Tassie that I recommended, the vendor took the 1.47 offer. They had committed to the school, they had committed to local jobs, they had sold their property. There was nothing in that building pest report that was going to stop them from purchasing that place. And when I informed the seller of this information, I suppose the quality of the agent shone through. It wasn't just, hey, here's 1.47 with a subject to build and pest and a 10% deposit and a 90-day settlement. This is when the kids are obviously up. This is when he's coming up. They're getting some carpets done in between. They've already committed to new jobs. He's going to become a buyer's agent. She's got a gig at the local school here. And the vendor goes, I feel really comfortable now accepting a lower offer. So the questions, I suppose, you'll put into your own words, and it'd be good to hear Adrian's, but the premise of what you're trying to get to is motivation and destination, and that qualifies everything else from there.
So
I agree.
Go for it, Adrian.
No, it's exactly right. It's those two key things, and it's actually cutting through, I guess, most of the other stuff. It's, you can ask, well, what sort of property you're looking for? Is it 3 beds or 4 beds? Is it this area or that? It's really like, what is their time frame? Are they sold? Are they not? Are they looking to move in this side of Christmas, or are they happy for a settlement next side of Christmas? Like, these are all little questions along the way that not everyone asks but should. And that sort of helps us to know, well, right, where are they in their buying path? They might not be purchasing for 12 months. That doesn't mean they're completely discounted, because that can change if the right property comes up. If it's in the perfect location in the Frankston High School zone, and that's where they want to be. So things change very quickly, but knowing their motivation, as Joel sort of touched on, it's probably the biggest thing. Just how motivated are they to actually transact in the market? Have they offered on anything else that's similar to what you're selling? How much did they miss by? Like, it's not hard to key in that information and see, well, they're the underbidder of a property that's sold for 1.3, we're selling at 1.2 to 1.3. They're in the right category. So
the best way to learn, guys, is obviously doing role play. And Joel, I know you're a big one with your team, because learning these questions, when to ask them, how to ask them, tonality and so forth. How often would you role play with your own teams?
Matt, full disclosure, we've been terrible for the last month because of the amount of volume. So we set up Tuesdays, we do our team meeting, and then role play afterwards. And sometimes it went for a long time, sometimes it went for a short time. But there hopefully is enough in the office where we're listening to one another and we're talking through particular situations on the spot. But that's something we'll get back to. We just have literally been run off our feet. It's not an excuse, but that's the truth. I think the two things I'd say on that as well is, if you find that people are a bit funny, because I do remember this. I remember people being a bit funny about me asking all these questions, and it just, now that I'm thinking about it, it just has not happened up here. It means you're not starting the conversation right. You're not going straight in with, hey, what do you want? Where are you going? When are you selling? Have you sold? You're just trying to form a relationship. How long have you been in that particular property for? Where were you before there? Find some commonality, and then you can go into the questions. And you won't get this abrupt, like, what's this interrogation, Joel? Like, I don't have time, sort of thing. And the other thing as well is that the buyer will recognize the difference between you and the competition, because you're asking things that matter. So they're going to go, oh, that person asked me bed, bath, car. And that person asked me, my family situation, was it important to have the kids on the same level as me, and all the rest of it. And talk about trying to do things a particular way. Like, this is, I would say, the basics. but the buyer just knows, like, here they're going, that felt like a good conversation when they hung up. And that's sort of the brand and the aura that we've tried to create in our marketplace, not through doing particular flashy things. It's just getting to know people in your actual community. And if you can't find them the right property, that's okay. But at least you ask the questions to be in a position to do so.
Love it. So true. And it's really difficult to be those people who don't have that genuine care. And it's one of the topics we're talking about later on. You can't convey that genuine care unless you genuinely care. So, no, brilliant. Okay, creating a hot list, work with the database. Something that you said, Adrian, is this for off-market opportunities? What's the creating a hot list, work with the database?
It's for both, to be honest, whether they're active listings or off-market listings. But I think having a hot list of buyers in front of you all the time, like I know we all revert back to our computer or our database, and sometimes they can be hard to find, like you will miss things. So literally every staff member within my office has their buyer hot list in front of them on a whiteboard. It's clear. They know who they are, who they're working with, what they're looking for. They know these people intimately, and that hot list changes as the purchaser purchases, obviously, but always keep it front of mind, and it's physically writing it down on the whiteboard. I don't know if Joel recalls, but literally the first 2 weeks I started with him, he gave me a huge whiteboard, literally sat behind my computer, and I literally filled it up within 2 to 3 weeks. And I literally just called those people religiously. I was new in the industry, so not all of them were super hot. Let me give you the hot tip, but I identified over time, and that list obviously becomes smaller, but those relationships become stronger. So a really good hot list in front of you, front of mind. I know a lot of people refer back to technology all the time, but I just think having it in your face day to day is really, really important. Some people print it off as well, so they can take it in the car with them, or you've got it on your phone. So your hot list is great, and you should know those people intimately. You should know what they're looking for. So it's not a matter of, oh, what are they, 4-bed or 3-bed or what area? You know who they are. And then referring those to off-market listings, particularly conversations we're having in the living room with potential vendors is, well, we have John and Sally looking in the area at the moment. They're the underbidders for $9 Pardello across the road from you. They're the perfect candidate for this property. If anyone's going to buy the home, it will be them. So, or might be them, you should say. So at the end of the day, it's super powerful, and you need to have that though. Don't say that in the living room if it's not the case, because they will be expecting that inspection to take place. But I think if you're working the buyers properly, you're servicing your market properly, you'll always have a few buyers that would suit a particular home. You really will. We all work core areas, or we do in our marketplace. So, like, you know, last week we sold 9 Pardello Place. That's Martin King job. You remember him? That come off the back of a home we're handling at 50 Summerfield Drive. It's only, you know, a football kick away, and they were the perfect buyer for Pardello. We sold it off market. Next door sold for 175 on market. Was on the market for over 6 months. We sold it in 5 days to one of our underbidders from 50 Summerfield. That's buyer work.
That's exactly right. And one of the things I'll share that I know a lot of our teams are doing now, and I've shared it before, is where they actually get the buyer's agent, and we'll talk about when to put on a buyer's agent, into the lounge room for the first 5-10 minutes of a listing presentation. So I know Jason, I'm not sure if Jason is on, he does it with his buyer's agent, Ben, where he pre-frames the inspection, the appraisal with the vendor, Mr. Vendor. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I will bring Ben along. He's my dedicated buyer's agent. We've got a number of people on the hot list. Love for him to see your property for the first 5-10 minutes. He'll be in the presentation with us just to walk around, so we can cross-match, obviously, our current hot list of buyers. And he said the day he implemented that, he got 6 in a row. Like he was missing every second listing. I'm not sure, Jason, if you're on, but he got 6 in a row thereafter. And it was just a great strategy in his marketplace, where there was no need to have 2 agents in a listing presentation, but really utilizing that genuine buyer work and obviously having the agent in the lounge room was a great strategy. I felt.
Yeah, I think Manos was going to say, just in regards to what Adrian was mentioning, then sort of like a analog list and a digital list. The benefits of obviously having them in the CRM is that, you know, you can bulk SMS if you want to. They're going to have particular requirements. They're going to receive an email. But it really is super critical that if that database is actually slowing you down, that you have a look at how you're running it. Because a lot of people put in, like, say, Joel Hood, JH buyer hot, JH buyer warm, JH buyer cold, and then a particular requirement. And you look and you go, well, how much time have I spent moving people from hot to warm and warm to hot and you know, changing their requirements and all the rest of it? When I'm doing that and Adrian punches out 3 calls at the same time and he makes 3 connections while I'm playing with the computer, the honest truth is that buyer's probably going to have seen your listing if you've advertised it on realestate.com anyway. So be mindful that if you're not making enough connections in the day, or you because I would look at what we do here, and I know what Adrian and I did, and we are definitely not running anywhere near that pace. The phone, and this is not an exaggeration, never left Adrian's ear, like religiously, freakishly good at just call, not checking, oh, what did I say to that client last time? I've got to know their dog's name and all the rest of it. It was just, you know, call. And obviously you speak to people often enough, you can remember these things, but you definitely want to be keeping something separate to the side. So when I started, it was a list of buyers that I wanted to stay in touch with, and I wanted to make sure that I either found them the property or they found it, but I was the one servicing them. And then it was a list of properties that I was chasing as an active listing. That's obviously skewed now, where I'm chasing more of listings and the teams are obviously working with more of the buyers. But you do need these things in front of you, because you will be in the car more often. You will be pulled into appointments. And if you can just get that 1, 2, 3, 4 extra calls done per day, it's obviously going to add up over the course of a week and a month and a year.
Yeah. And you know how big I am on the analog as well, team. I think it's so important to be putting in clean data into your database and having that nurturing and that engagement strategy through your database and through email marketing, and, you know, being able to search correctly. But that hot list of analog, just like, you know, the Alpha and Omega workbook, which team is going to have a big overhaul as well, but having the same thing for, you know, obviously vendors, analog, having the same hot list in paper format, or just
not enough, Manos. You
Sorry?
need not enough room for all the appraisals. I had to print off my own bloody sheets. The book is too short.
Yeah. But how invaluable has that book been for those people that have been using it? Right, seriously, guys.
Brilliant. And I've done the highlight on obviously the green we've listed, the red that we've lost, the blue that we've sold, and go through the course of the year. And you know, that's the book that sits on your it goes home at night with me, and obviously the laptop. I mean, admittedly, I'm lying for the last month because it was behind. Like, it has been so chaotic. But the rest of the year, 9 of the 10 months.
I do recall one PB training session, which is our, you know, our internal training session for AA, personal best, 2019, I think it was. And you guys had a record year as an EBU. And I asked the question, what was the one thing you changed to be your, you know, $1.7, $1.8 million year? And I remember, Adrian, we're at the Cheltenham office, and you turned around and you said, implementing the Alpha and Omega workbook, and actually getting it on paper and removing it from, still having the digital, still having your whiteboard, but putting it on paper was a significant difference. And you'll be pleased to know, team, that it's having a revamp, and we've changed the name to the Hustle Playbook to reflect more of what it actually does. So the team.
It's a great example, Manos, because that book, for those that don't know, it's obviously your appraisals for the course of the 12 months, and you can do listings and sales, but I really focus on the appraisal side, and it's making sure that the right people are top of mind. So we're talking about, you know, the database versus the analog. That's the analog that literally is, okay, well, I've done 251 appraisals, so 259 this year. They are the people that I've done appraisals on. I need to just be scanning through on a regular basis. The ones that I've listed, no worries, and sold, lost, no worries, and sold. But the ones that haven't transacted, you know, I've been in their lounge rooms. They've called me into their house. You know, they're the ones that should be right at the top of the calls, and then I call the database afterwards. So the buyer work would be the same thing. Who is frequently coming to your opens? Who is frequently inquiring on properties? they go right to the top because they're in buying mode. And then someone else that came through a property 4 or 5 weeks ago that hasn't picked up your phone call since, yeah, give them a call, but they can obviously be right down the list after that. So
yeah, no, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Okay, last couple of topics. When should a lead agent engage a full-time buyer's assistant? This is a ripper and one of the biggest questions I'll often get asked. What's your thoughts?
Sizzle?
I mean, it's when you can't handle the volumes and things are getting left behind, and I think that's the first thing to go, right? The buyer callbacks and the buyer follow up and being religious about it. So I think once you're at a point, and there's no magic number, everyone's different, but I guess there's always that fear of that financial investment, isn't it, into that next person? Where am I going to come up with that 70, 80, 100K a year to pay for that person? The reality is, if you put on the right person who's driven and makes the calls and works their ass off, you'll double your business. They will, because that worry is taken away. Yes, they get serviced properly, the buyers that aren't actively looking right now, but they're hearing about you, your team, and they will become a seller down the track. So your business just naturally grows. So I think the sooner you can do it, the better, in my opinion. I think teams of 3 and 4, I think we tried 5 at one point with Joel. It didn't quite work, but 4 was the magic number for us. And my team has hovered between 3 and 4 since I've been at Marshall White. So I've had staff. Jake just left my team, but he's a standalone agent again. So I got him up and running over a 12-month period. My team, it benefited him. So it's natural growth and progression, and watching my staff members thrive and become standalone agents are the key. Joel did the same with me. So I think the only way to move forward, if you want your business to be at a certain level, if you don't want to, that's fine. If you want to be a standalone agent and handle a certain amount of clients, well, you won't grow unless you put that next person on. I can tell you that right now, because you can't handle the volume and the service levels drop. So the sooner you can do it, if you want that growth, the better.
Yeah, and I think that's the answer to our growth up here, and everything has been team. Like it's all a team. They'll write, I would think, another 300K GCI on their own if you're putting them on. And obviously I had that concern with Adrian, and that year we wrote $1 million. I think we went from 400 to $1 million, or 450 to $1 million. So we doubled our business. He doesn't let me forget about that. He's always reminding me. And no different to the team. I put someone on in here, and then we have to sort of rejig our goal for the year, because we know it's going up. And I think just that, once you can't, I mentioned before, when you notice your service level drops, that's when you need to start, putting somebody on. The caveat with that is that you need to bring them into an environment that you're actually going to give them a potential of thriving. So you need to have some structure and some job roles. And, I've got team members here that probably, would like to see maybe a little bit more in terms of things being, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at exact times. Obviously all very different personalities here, but I think that you need to have a plan in place. There needs to be some KPIs in place from the beginning, so they understand what they're actually shooting for. I do a weekly one-on-one catch up with each team member every single Thursday for a couple of them, because they got the Fridays off, and then Fridays are the ones that are off on Thursdays. And sometimes it's really quick and we're going through their KPIs, and other times we'll chat for 30 minutes because I'm off course as a business leader, or obviously they're a little bit off course. So to me, yes, you put someone on straight away. I put on an assistant up here within a couple of months, and we've been hiring pretty much like ever since. But you absolutely have to have a system that allows them to grow. And like Adrian said, they need to be the right person as well. Mine have been green. They have been quite green, but they come from good families. They've got great values. They're, similar age group with families. There's a real motivation for them to really work hard in the next 10 years. And I personally am a little bit different to you, Manos, in that I've hired people that want to be their own salesperson. They'll push themselves within my team, which will benefit me, but they'll push themselves because they'll obviously see the benefits and they'll come out on the other end like an apprenticeship. Maybe it'll get to a point where I find, okay, well, I've now got to have people that sort of remain with me. But I look, Adrian and I had 5 fantastic years together. We probably would have kept working together in some sort of capacity. But I think if you treat them well and you pay them well, you're going to get plenty of life out of that relationship. So
yeah, and I think that's important. And everything, I have a saying, everything falls into place when you truly know what you want. And also answering this question, if you made the decision to be in real estate for the rest of your life, what does it need to look like? And what Joel was referring, and I always talk about a lead agent or a director's EBU, where you go wide and your team members are fulfilling roles that they see themselves doing for a long term. Where a lot of directors bring in agents and they have them on their team for 6 months and guide them and then move them on. But I feel like that sort of structure, when it's so quick, right? You're not developing your service levels and your structure in place to really leverage, because if you treat it as a business, and the key word, Adrian, that you said when we opened up this topic is investment. And here's an investment. When you invest in people and you're investing in your business, it's not an expense. You're waiting for a return on investment. And if you look at it as a buyer's agent, say a buyer's agent, with bonuses and so forth, his cost is as an investment is 100,000 in a year, you'd expect a return. And if your average commission is $20,000, you say, okay, to get to the break-even point, there's 5 lists and sales that I need to generate over and above what I would do on my own, let alone the extra time that you have and the ability to give better client service and get more of a work-life balance. So I guess there's no right or wrong answer, but I think if you made the decision personally to be in real estate for the rest of your life, and I think everyone should, because you look at your business very, very differently, you put on an assistant straight away, a buyer's agent straight away, because it's an investment and there's initial cash flow that it might impact you, but make sure that you've got that saving in the bank, so you can accommodate 3 to 6 months worth of investment, because you'll get that return. And the big one, Joel, that you said, Maria always says it as well. He goes, when you bring people into your team, don't bring it into chaos. Make sure it's organized chaos. Like make sure you've got, because it's organized chaos. Let's be truthful, real estate. And, I've been putting the books together and talking about the ideal week. I said, mate, it's just organized chaos. So there's got to be some structure. But things happen on a daily basis, especially when you're busy. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. I think when you anticipate organized chaos, you actually structure yourself better, but bring in people, but with distinct job roles, a progression, the training. You've got to invest your time into these people to bring them on. So yeah, so that's and of course, going to hosts on the weekend and so forth. So yeah, anything else you'd like to add on that, Adrian?
I was going to say quickly, Manos, I think there's a question from Mickey, and he was just asking about how we position ourselves as future business for the buyers if we're obviously delegating to the team members. And I think that's where it depends on the person. So if I'm positioning team members to go out on their own in future, hopefully they remain within our business, but if they don't understand, then I'm okay with that being their future business. So, if it came to a point in the road where Adrian and I, went separate directions within the same area, and never happened because obviously I moved up here, there'll be people that would have gravitated towards him, the people that would have gravitated towards me. I am generally involved in just about every deal still. I don't delegate everything wholeheartedly. I do have one lady in the office, Jade, who's an absolute superstar, and she's taken it on very, very quickly. And she has been left with pretty much full responsibility, but they're her future clients, in my opinion. I'm not looking to sort of maintain every person. And some of them might come to me because we met at the Open and we got along well, and other people will say, no, we had a really good experience with her. So I'm still involved in the negotiation. I still make my buyer calls. I'm still present at the Opens, and I'm going back to what I mentioned before. I'm trying to create that relationship. I think I personally offer enough through the experiences that we have that I'm still going to have some involvement later on down the track. But the fact of the matter is, you simply don't have enough hours in the day. If you want to do volume, you've got to delegate certain things and be comfortable with what comes. So,
yeah, love it. Awesome. Okay, last slide. Be accessible and genuinely care. And when you shared this topic, I was really keen to hear your side of things, Adrian. Be accessible, and what does that mean? And genuinely care.
Well, I guess for me, being accessible is being accessible. So like my phone is never off. And if someone needs to reach me, they hear from me. So it's not, if I have a buyer inquiry come in, they leave a voicemail, and between appointments, I might have 6 or 7 of those. They're the first thing I get to. So making sure that you're always responding in a timely manner, that's not calling them 24, 48 hours later. That opportunity is then lost in my opinion, whether a buyer or a seller. If you're too busy to pick up the phone, which no one really ever is, you can always call a buyer back or call a seller back. You would not call your wife back, trust me. So you want to make those calls and actually, don't forget about it. Make sure you're calling them. So being accessible is exactly that. So there's not one day where I've got a full run of voicemails and they're not hearing from me that day. If that's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. at night when I'm sitting in my driveway before I walk inside to switch off for the night, that happens. I do not leave the car until those calls are actually done. And generally care is actually giving a shit, if I'm being honest. There's too many, I think, that don't care, and they probably shouldn't be in the industry, in my opinion. This is a people-based business. It's not a property-based business. It's about the people. It's the biggest financial decision that they will make in their life. And you actually have to come from a point of view of wanting to help somebody. And I think that gets forgotten about. But for me, that's something I instill in all my employees and my staff members. And that's because I generally do. I got into this industry because I like working with people. That's the biggest thing. So coming across and trying to help somebody, it can be a very stressful exercise. People go, sell due to death, sell due to marriage breakups. Showing some empathy and actually, being a human being goes a long way. And I think if you're a genuine person, you go a long way. A lot of the people in this industry that I've met and have friendships with, I still play basketball Tuesday nights with a whole bunch of EV guys that I used to work with. And they're all genuine people who are successful in this industry because of that. They're actually good people.
Yeah. And I love that, Adrian. I love the mentality of abundance. And Joel, you mentioned it before. If people choose to stay with you or move on and stuff like that, that genuine abundance mentality, it's not the end of the world for individuals, because that's what happens. People do move on and so forth. And it's sad to see good people move on, but if they leave for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons, then, as a director and as a leader, you've done the right thing and given opportunity. Joel, anything you'd like to add? Do you do anything special from a team culture point of view in regards to buyers?
Yeah, so I'll go back first with the genuinely care part, because I always find it funny with scripts and dialogues and, okay, what sort of questions should we be asking someone? But I'm just genuinely intrigued to meet people and know about their lives. And then I think, and this is, I always say to Adrian, confidence, not arrogance. Can watch that border, buddy. Right on. But that's where I sit on that line right now, where I genuinely feel that myself and our team are the best in the area to service people. And that motivates me to want to get to know people, because I'm looking for a certain number, that 100 a year, that want to buy and sell through us. And I'm going, okay, well, who's it going to be? And I'm getting to know them. I'm going, okay, this is someone I want to stay in contact with for a very long period of time. And that was actually the hardest thing for me leaving Victoria, not just leaving a great team and friends, but it was clients that had become friends, because it wasn't work. It wasn't, I've got to make my 30 calls today. I've got to check in with these people. It was working through a list and going, okay, I called 30 today. I created enough relationships, but there's 2 or 3 there I really want to stay in contact with. I found them really interesting and we are very similar. So you're almost looking for friends as such. And so when Adrian was saying genuinely care, you shouldn't have to try. If you are struggling with that, you probably need to take a serious look as whether or not it's the right fit. But just don't get too hard on yourself in terms of I've got to ask the right questions. I've got to sell them on something. You got to look a lot more along the lines of just get to know the person well, and then it will flow from there. And you'll get better at, okay, maybe I should have, not waffled on for too long there because we got to the end of the presentation and they were yawning before I got to ask for the business. That's going to come with experience, but, genuinely caring enough to create a relationship with them and then point them in the right direction. And I think that genuine care too, it's really important because sometimes you have to give people a push, and yourself deep down because you've asked the right questions that you have to give them that nudge then and there. You've asked the questions and you say, I'm really sorry, Sue, but I know this is not the number you wanted to take, but I can't let you stay here. This house is not the right fit for you. You are miserable here. Your kids are 3 hours away. How long are you going to make that commute for? What's the difference of taking $20,000 or $30,000 less versus another 12 months without the family? So because you've asked those questions, because you genuinely care, they see you're not chasing a commission check. They see that you're actually pushing for the right reasons. And then there's other times you go, you know what? Let's take it off the market. Let's lease it for 12 months and let's give it a go another time. And I think that's sort of the care that Adrian was talking about in relation to have a team culture that celebrates great buyer work. Yeah, I mean, our culture is very much there's no ownership. It's who is the best person to assist this client move forward. So we're doing opens on the weekend, and there's 2 at every open, as you know. And particular people gravitate towards particular people. So it's not, oh, no, that was my open, I'm taking the list. It was, he really seemed to enjoy chatting to you, Kristen. It might be because you're extremely good looking, but you are going to close this deal. But it's about working out, I just think it would be a real shame if someone was having a conversation in the house, created a 10-minute relationship, and then someone complete opposite gives them a call and they're like, oh, it's Kristen. We talked about the kids and all the rest of it. So have a culture, and it's not about, the dollars. It's about, okay, well, who's the best person to speak to that person? Who's the best person that's potentially going to assist that buyer to purchase the home? Your responsibilities to the seller. So, I need to take that call, and I think you should be making that call. And yeah, as I said, just no ownership, just making sure that people are getting followed up. If I'm simply too busy, I would love any agent within my office to be making contact with people so that at least, that follow-up is taking place. They're hearing from us. So,
yeah, that abundance mentality is coming loud and clear, Joel. So really well done. Okay, last slide, team. And we'll give it up for Joel. And what is next for Joel and Adrian? Where's the next 1, 2, 5 years? What's it looking like for you guys?
I've got to catch Joel now. That's my goal for the next 12 months. No, I'll be where I am, in my opinion. I love what I do, and I love the team we've created. I think we've got 22, 23 staff now, and over half or more than half have been here from the start 4 years ago. So we started with 12 or 13. So it's an amazing team, and it's a great environment to be in, and it's a great industry to be in. So yeah, I'll still be in real estate, that's for sure. I'll be taking me out in the box.
I think I've heard the same thing from you, Joel.
Yeah, no, Caitlin, you're 24? She's the boss of the office. She said she'll be dead at this rate. So she's been chuckling to a lot of today because this has been a year of absolute chaos. She's been here from pretty much the beginning. She's seen the growth and how crazy it's been. And I guess that's the benefit to anyone out there is you hear all these things, oh, it's this market, it's different here, it's different there. It's like, no, guys, it's pretty much all the same. If you educate yourself to a level, you know how to play the game really well in this industry, it can happen extremely quickly. We've gone from working in the corporate space to purchasing the front office and a rent roll and 4 staff with that rent roll, purchasing the back office, and now we're taking the lease next door and we're moving into that space. But and that wasn't a plan, so it's difficult. You say, what does the future hold? It's like, well, this was all organic growth. People came to us. We shopped for Caitlin. Very fortunate Sarah found her, and we shopped for, I think, Isabella, whereas everybody else within the office was just an organic attraction where we were in the marketplace doing business, and the right people gravitated to us. And I've had others approach, but it's very much a case of, no, this is someone I actually want to hang out with on a Saturday afternoon, a Sunday with my family. We won't go much bigger. I'm absolutely certain of that. We know I'm serious, Caitlin. I promise. We know our marketplace. We know where we want to work, and we know the amount of homes. And I want enough food on the table for everyone. And I'd love the existing team members we have in our business, two are listing and selling agents in their own right already, but for them to have assistance, and also for the current team members that work under me. So that's why we're taking next door, is actually to prepare for them. But that would be it. And I can see October was not life balance. So this is why I'm really looking forward to Black Salt in December. And I absolutely love the Christmas period. You plan for the next 12 months, and I'll pull the things out that need to improve from probably health and wellbeing side of things, and put a bit more structure in place for next year. So, but it's super exciting. I mean, what an industry.
Joel, it is incredible, and congratulations to both of you guys. Seriously, incredible achievements in a very relatively short period of time. People talk about having 20, 30-year careers to achieve what you guys have done in a much shorter period. Obviously, Joel, your journey over the last 2 years has been an absolute pleasure to watch. And it's really just good to sort of see that, someone can apply the fundamentals, not reinvent the wheel. Yes, you're highly skilled. We can't take that away from you. And it's difficult to replicate. But if you just do the right stuff at the right time, genuinely care, as Adrian says, you're going to do really well in an incredible industry. But I'm glad to hear that you also know your capacity and the market capacity, because there is the law of diminishing returns, and that's both in profitability and also in lifestyle. You got to get that work-life balance. If there's such a space in real estate, but it can work. It absolutely can work. So, team, can we give it up for Joel and for Adrian? Seriously, I was really looking forward to this session. Really, really looking forward to it, because you're genuine people. You're agents in the field, and you're giving of your time, and agents in the field, training agents in the field. So thank you so much for participating today and giving of your time. So we give a big virtual. I know half the people have got their cameras.
And then huge thank you, guys, from me as well. This was brilliant. Just listening to you two, it's like they're phenomenal. And you can just tell when you used to work together, how in tune you are with each other. And now you've gone away, and you've both have built your own individual businesses, taking a lot of the things that you've discovered together and you've learned from each other. And congratulations to you both. You're legends. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And team, thank you again for everyone that's participated. I know a few people have left following towards the end of the session, but just remember, I really value everyone's time. We've completed this session. The next session is setting up for a massive 2025. It is the week before Black Salt, but I think that's really, really important from a goal setting point of view, that people can make that session in preparation as well for the week after, for the 2-day conference. As everyone knows, Black Salt is on 2025, 10th and 11th. Tickets are selling out, team. So we've only got a capacity for a couple of hundred people at the venue. So if you haven't got your ticket, please organise it, because they will likely be sold out. So please, obviously, book in now. It's only 5 weeks to go. Once again, a big shout out to our industry partners. Couldn't do this without these guys. So a big, big thank you. On that note, team, Arthur, anything else you'd like to add?
I can say genuinely, Manos, there were still people logging on just after the hour of 1 o'clock, which is awesome. So either they got the times wrong, or they just heard about the session and wanted to jump in. I'm not sure, but no, it was an awesome session. Adrian, thank you very much for your time as well. Hoodie, as always. Everyone, thank you. Great session.
Yeah, it was. And but there's nothing like implementation, guys. We can learn all this, but if we don't implement, it does, you've just attended a session thereafter. Again, big shout out, guys. Thanks again for your time. And if you any other info, please reach out. And just on one final, well, actually, I'll stop. One quote, guys, I'll share with customer service is an opportunity to exceed your customers' expectations. And that's what BioWork is all about, from John Janshu, who's the founder of One Tree Marketing. Yeah, so really good quote. Customer service is an opportunity to exceed your customer expectations. So that's it. All right, I'll leave you to it. Again, thanks again, Joel, Adrian. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be good. Enjoy the rest of the day.